Breaking news today. As a result of this election, the Western Alliance is on high alert. The former prime minister advocated anti-Ukraine policies, such as blocking Kyiv's bid to join NATO, during his election campaign. Vladimir Putin is likely to be pleased with the results of the September 30 elections, as a candidate who campaigned on anti-Ukraine pledges was victorious. After his party, Smer, received roughly 23% of the vote in Slovakia's recent election, former Prime Minister Robert Fico has been given the opportunity to lead his European country once again. It was predicted that Mr. Fico's Smer party would finish second to the Liberal Progressive Slovakia party led by Michal Imeka, but Mr. Fico's party proved the polls wrong. Preliminary results published early on October 1 indicated that Mr. Imeka's pro-NATO, pro-EU, and pro-Ukraine party would finish 5 points behind the candidate he was running against. Mr. Fico, who has been elected 3 times previously in 2006, 2012, and 2016, can now try to form a coalition government in an effort to gain a majority in the 150-member Slovakian parliament. Washington and Brussels were alarmed by Mr. Fico's campaign because of his apparent promise to switch to the anti-Ukraine camp. Mr. Fico led Slovakia into the Eurozone in 2009. In recent months, the Smer leader, who resigned in 2018 after a public uproar over the murders of an investigative journalist and his girlfriend, had promised to end sanctions against Russia, stop Slovakia's military aid to Ukraine, and even block Kyiv's attempt to join NATO. In a speech to his supporters in August, Mr. Fico went so far as to parrot Moscow's propaganda on the Ukrainian conflict, claiming that the conflict began not as a result of an illegal invasion but as a civil war when the Ukrainian Nazis and fascists started to murder the Russian citizens in Donbass and Luhansk. Despite the electoral victory, Mr. Fico's ability to form a governing coalition in Slovakia is highly unlikely due to the diversity of the country's political parties. Mr. Fico would likely need the backing of 2 additional parties to become prime minister of a stable government. Although the leader of Halas has fallen out with Mr. Fico, Peter Pellegrini, whose party received about 14% of the votes on Saturday, has been tipped to join a government coalition. The 2 men have been in talks to form a coalition, and Mr. Pellegrini said this morning that he expected to hear an offer to collaborate from Mr. Fico. The Slovak National Party, SNS, is the 3rd party that could form a coalition with Mr. Fico because it received enough votes to enter parliament. In contrast, the far-right Republika Party, which was widely expected to back Mr. Fico in the event of his victory, is projected to have earned only 4.7% of the vote and therefore will not have any representatives in parliament. An expert has dismissed worries that Mr. Fico poses a threat to European and Western support for Ukraine. As noted by Michael Rossi, lecturer in the Department of Political Science at Rutgers University, Mr. Fico's need to strike an alliance with at least 2 other political leaders will likely force him to curb his anti-Ukraine stance. Before the vote, he told Express.co.uk, "For those that seem to fear the worst if Fico comes in, I would say best case scenario, he might get some of his ideas out, but it's going to be very difficult for him to enable the hardline policies that he is promising if he has to work with a coalition of 3 or 4 political parties."